The sun was just beginning to set, casting a warm orange glow over the hills that framed my ranch. I was standing on the porch, sipping coffee, enjoying the quiet hum of the countryside. This land had been in my family for generations, past, down through hard work, sweat, and the kind of grit you don't find much these days. Out here, I didn't have to answer to anyone. No neighbors peeking through blinds, no ridiculous rules about lawn heights or mailbox colors. Just wide open, skies and the sound of wind rustling through the trees. That peace shattered one Tuesday afternoon when I heard an insistent banging at my front gate. I walked down the gravel path, boots crunching beneath me, and found a woman standing outside the wrought iron gate with a clipboard and a scowl that could curdle milk. She was dressed like someone who took herself too seriously. Pastel sweater, pearl necklace, and a name tag that read, HOA President, Marlene Thompson. "Can I help you?" I asked, already knowing I probably didn't want to. She gave me a tight-lipped smile, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, I'm here to conduct an inspection of your property. It's standard for all homeowners within the Evergreen Hills Community Association." I blinked. Evergreen Hills is 3 miles down the road. She flipped her clipboard, glancing at some papers like they proved something. "There's been a recent expansion of the HOA boundary lines. You are now within the managed community area." I leaned against the gate. "That's interesting, because I have a deed that says otherwise. My land was surveyed and registered before Evergreen Hills even existed. This ranch isn't part of any HOA." Her jaw tightened. "Sir, all properties in the surrounding area must comply. That includes fence height regulations, approved exterior colors, livestock allowances." I cut her off. "Ma'am, with all due respect, this is a cattle ranch, not a cookie-cutter development. I don't need your permission to keep cows on my land." She frowned, clearly unused to being told no. "If you refuse to cooperate, I will have to note you as non-compliant. Fines will follow." I let out a small laugh. "Fines from who? You have no authority here." Her face flushed red. "You may want to check again. Things change quickly in this county. I suggest you stay informed." I shook my head slowly. "I stay informed just fine, and I haven't heard a word about this. No letter, no vote, nothing from the county office. You're not coming onto my property." She stepped closer, practically pressing herself against the gate, her hands gripping. "The bar's like a prisoner desperate for control. I can get a warrant." "For what? Breaching a fence on private land that your HOA doesn't govern? Good luck with that." For a moment, she just stared at me, and in her eyes I saw something more than frustration. It was entitlement, the belief that her little kingdom extended as far as she wanted it to. She was used to people folding the moment she showed up with her clipboard. I wasn't going to be one of them. "I'm going to file a report," she hissed. "You do that. I'll be right here, on my legally deeded ranch, minding my own business." Without another word, she turned on her heel and stormed back to her shiny SUV, heels clacking against the asphalt like war drums. As she pulled away, kicking up a cloud of dust behind her, I stood at the gate watching until she disappeared over the ridge. I had a strong feeling this wasn't the last I'd see of Marlene Thompson, and somehow I knew things were about to get a whole lot messier. It started subtly at first, little things that made me raise an eyebrow, but not quite act. A sign, freshly staked into the ground just outside the edge of my property, read, "Welcome to Evergreen Hills Managed Community," in gold lettering. It stood about 10 feet from my main fence, just close enough to make a statement. I figured it was some kind of overreach, maybe a mistake. I left it alone, thinking it would disappear like most nuisances do out here. But it didn't. A week later, I opened my mailbox and found a white envelope with a stamp that said, "Official HOA Business." Inside was a formal letter that looked like it had been written by someone who took great joy in printing fine amounts in bold. Apparently, I had already racked up 3 violations. The first was for an unauthorized perimeter fence. Second, excessive livestock not meeting HOA animal ratio policy. The third, non-compliant landscaping, presence of native brush exceeding height limitations. I read the letter twice, chuckling in disbelief. My fence was nearly 50 years old and had been built before that HOA even existed. The cows? They were my livelihood, not some backyard hobby. And the native brush? That was just how the land looked. Wild, natural, and beautiful. If anything, it was the kind of view those HOA folks wished they had. Something authentic. Still, the letters didn't stop. Every few days, more would arrive, each more aggressive than the last. One even threatened legal action if I didn't. Attend a mandatory compliance meeting at the HOA clubhouse. I didn't even know where the clubhouse was. I ignored it all. Then came the incident that pushed things too far. I was in the barn, checking on a calf that had been born the night before, when I heard tires crunching on gravel. I stepped outside and saw Marlene's silver SUV pulling halfway into my driveway. She had bypassed the front gate entirely and entered through a side maintenance path I used for supply deliveries. She stepped out, dressed again like she was about to host a garden party rather than walk onto a ranch. "I'm conducting a surprise inspection," she announced, as if she were announcing the arrival of royalty. "You're trespassing," I said, walking toward her. "Get off my property." She held up a tablet and started taking photos of my barn, my tractor, even the cow pen. "I've warned you multiple times. You are now officially a risk to community value. These photos will be submitted as evidence." "Evidence of what?" I asked, crossing my arms. "You are in violation of HOA property maintenance code." "That barn is not an approved color. Your livestock housing is substandard. Your gravel drive is not a permitted surface material." I couldn't help it. I laughed. A real, genuine belly laugh. "Lady, this is a ranch. That barn has been red for 60 years. The cows don't care what color it is, and neither do I." She ignored me and kept snapping pictures. That's when I got in my truck and blocked the exit. I parked right behind her car and dialed the sheriff's department. I wasn't messing around anymore. "You can't detain me," she said, waving her arms. "I'm not." "I'm keeping you from fleeing the scene of a trespassing complaint." "You're insane," she snapped, her face going red. "No," I said calmly. "I'm tired of your fake rules, your threats, and your arrogance." The deputy arrived faster than I expected. I stepped back, letting him handle it. Marlene ran to him like she'd been rescued from a kidnapping, but her story didn't get far before I handed the deputy my deed, stamped, recorded, and notarized, clearly stating I was outside all HOA jurisdictions. That's when things really got interesting. The deputy stepped out of his cruiser slowly, adjusting his hat against the glare of the sun. He looked like a man who'd seen his fair share of nonsense, but hadn't quite expected to find it on a quiet stretch of ranchland. That afternoon, Marlene darted toward him like a wind-up toy, waving her arms and her tablet as if she were delivering a report to the Pentagon. "Officer, thank goodness you're here. This man is refusing to comply with Evergreen Hills HOA guidelines. He's been hostile, blocked me in, and he's in serious violation of property standards." She spoke fast, clearly expecting him to jump in on her side without question. The deputy held up a hand, calm and steady. "Ma'am, I'll speak with you in a minute." "Sir," he said, turning to me. "Mind explaining what's going on?" I nodded and handed him the folder I'd pulled from my truck, already knowing I'd need it eventually. Inside was a copy of my deed, complete with the official county seal, the legal description of my property, and the survey map showing clearly that my land fell completely outside the Evergreen Hills HOA boundary. "She's been harassing me for weeks," I said plainly. "Sending fake violation letters, posting signs near my property, and now trespassing. I blocked her car in after she let herself onto my land without permission." He looked over the deed carefully, taking his time. Then he walked a few paces away, radioed in something, and waited. Marlene, still fuming, tried to interrupt. "I have documentation right here," she said, holding out her tablet. "He's in violation of multiple regulations. I have photo evidence." The deputy didn't take the tablet. Instead, he looked up from the deed and fixed her with a flat stare. "Ma'am, I just confirmed with the county office. This property is not, and has never been, under the jurisdiction of Evergreen Hills HOA." Marlene's mouth fell open. "That can't be right. We expanded our boundary lines last quarter. The board approved it. HOA boundaries aren't determined by board meetings. They're set by county plats and deeds. This man's property is outside your reach," he said firmly. "You have no authority here." She took a step back, eyes darting, the confidence draining from her face. "But he's affecting property values. His cows smell. And that barn—" "Ma'am," the deputy interrupted, "you're on private land without permission. That's trespassing. I could cite you right now." Her eyes widened. "You're threatening me with legal action." "I'm telling you the law," he replied.